for being with us today. We are excited to bring you another new professional from the entertainment industry. We have a great guest today. So, Karina, thank you for joining us.
No problem. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. So, would you take just a few minutes and tell me a little bit about who you are, what you do, and where you're from?
Sure. So my name is Karina Mancebo. I am from Maryland and I live in New York. I've lived in New York for almost 14 years now, which is hard to believe. And I work at NBC. I am a director of talent relations. So I book celebrities and different influencers on different shows on NBC.
Very cool. That sounds like an exciting job, probably something new every single day. But would you mind telling us a little bit about your normal day-to-day activities? When you wake up and you go into work, what does that look like for you?
Sure. Well, things look a little different now that we're in the pandemic. So I get out of bed and I usually just come sit on my couch, and this is my new office. But I'm usually up, around 7:30, get coffee, and then I'm sort of on emails starting by 8. And I'm just, taking calls, I'm joining meetings, I'm reaching out to publicists or agents or managers, or they're reaching out to me to set up interviews with their talents. And then I'm coordinating with the show executive producers regarding the talent that I booked for their shows. And it's just kind of repeat every day after that. So every day sort of looks similar. When, pre-COVID times, I was out and about a lot more. Where I was going to events and I was attending different functions where I could meet people in the entertainment industry to try and get their talent to appear on our shows. But now that that's sort of all ceased, there's a lot more virtual events that happen. So oftentimes in the middle of the day or after work hours, I attend a lot of virtual events, whether it's movie screenings with talent that's from those movies or, things of that nature. But it's pretty much just being on email, responding, you're kind of available now 24/7. So the separation of, your personal life and your work life isn't quite there as much anymore. But I enjoy what I do, so I don't mind it one bit.
Absolutely. It sounds like there's a lot of relationship building that goes on with your job.
Yes, there is. It's very important. It's very important to me specifically because I work across the board on so many different shows within NBC, and, people start to recognize my name. And when they see my email pop up in their inbox, they get a familiarity with my name, and I want them to look at that and, have had a previous good experience. Or, publicists or agents that work in the same office. Oftentimes you're dealing with multiple people from their different offices. So you just want to make sure that you're always having a great, relationship with everyone, and everyone can leave their experience with me on a high note so that they want to come back and bring other talent to other shows that I book for.
Yeah, I think networking and building relationships is key in any career path that anyone chooses. Would you mind sharing some of your maybe networking strategies or relationship building strategies that you use?
Sure. Yeah, I would say, honestly, when I first got into TV production, I studied broadcast journalism at the University of Maryland. And I always knew I wanted to be in New York because I felt like that was sort of the mecca of the entertainment world. It's really New York or LA, but I wanted to be on the East Coast because my family's on the East Coast. And so I really just went on LinkedIn and I was connecting with people that were in the industry or people that I graduated college with because I was still looking for a job at the time. And I, one of my girlfriends who I knew from college, she actually had an interview with the Rachael Ray Show, and she ended up not taking that. She went to a different show, but she knew I was looking. And so she suggested I apply. And so I did. And that's kind of how I got my start in television over, 13 years ago. So I would say for me, networking has been instrumental in my professional career. I literally will reach out to anyone and everyone that I can find. So, if it's a particular show or a company that I want to work at, I'll literally go on the internet and try to find a contact, try to find an email address, and I'll just email them and express my interest in, working with them. as far as, personally like networking within my job, I would say, it's really just looking to see like who represents, what talent, what celebrity, what influencer, and then just reaching out and introducing myself. Oftentimes, a phone call can go a long way. So I'll pick up the phone sometimes, and, sometimes people won't respond back. So I do a lot of follow-up. I think that's definitely key as far as, the skill set needed for my job is to have to be persistent, because, people are getting hundreds of emails a day, and, your emails are bound to get lost in the shuffle. So I follow up a lot. And, if I don't have a contact for a particular person that I'm looking, to book, I'll reach out to other bookers that I know at NBC or other producers, and we all kind of help each other out and, share resources.
Yeah. So I can imagine with somewhere like NBC, there's probably tons of people that work in booking. Could you give us kind of an idea about what groups of people work together at your job and how those connections, how they really work? A little behind the scenes.
Yeah, sure. So, I'm very lucky. I work for a company that, has so many different divisions inside of it. Whether it's, the new Peacock streaming service that just launched, whether it's the Today Show or the late night shows, there's just such a facet of different programming along and, on NBC as well as digital. So you start to sort of have a lot of synergy with these other shows, because at the end of the day, we all have the same goal in mind, and that's just to promote our programs, get viewers to be excited about what we're producing. And so, I find that, working with the Today Show bookers and producers, I've been lucky to sort of build relationships with them over the years. And so whenever I have a question about something, or if they have a question for me, we just kind of reach out and email each other. But I would say, synergy is really key as far as, our company is concerned, just because there's so many different platforms and channels and divisions and things like that. So we all kind of work together. And it's kind of easy just because we have a database like in our NBC world, where you can like type in the name of somebody and an email will pop up and their phone number. So I'm very lucky that I have a vast network of colleagues to reach out to at NBC.
Absolutely. So your job sounds amazing. It sounds like you've accomplished a lot in your career. Would you mind telling us a little bit about your journey of how you got there? And then, just like everyone, I'm sure you've encountered obstacles along the way. Maybe give some advice to our students about how you can overcome those obstacles and keep going.
Sure. So I got my start in television, like I mentioned earlier. I studied broadcast journalism, in college, and I used to want to be in front of the camera. That was sort of my my dream. I loved television growing up. I would watch it whenever I could. So I always knew I wanted to work in television. I just didn't know to what capacity. So I tried my hand at the on-camera, process, and I didn't love it so much. And so then I went behind the scenes, and that's where like I mentioned before, I got the job at Rachael Ray, her daytime cooking show. And that was a crash course in television production. I started as a production assistant, which typically is like, the very, what's the word I'm looking for when you like step into it? What is it?
Entry level.
Yes, which is very entry level. The entry level position when you get into TV production. And I learned so much in those 3 years at the Rachael Ray Show. I would say that working in TV, you definitely work very hard and you work very long hours. And that was something that I had to come to grips with, because I wasn't really sure what to expect. I had never like had a job like that before, but I had to just be available 24/7, weekends, holidays, late nights. And I had to sacrifice, very early on in my career as far as, social situations go. I wasn't able to do as much as my friends were doing because I was, working in the office. but it really taught me so much from A to Z about how TV production works, whether it's booking or doing travel for a guest or dealing with budgets or, coming up with concept ideas for our show. So I really enjoyed the experience. And then from there, I sort of moved on and became an associate producer at a handful of other talk shows. And then I went to PopSugar, which is a women's lifestyle digital brand, which I really love that experience a lot. And then I ended up at NBC, and I've been there. This is going on to my 7th year now. I would say, very early on, I knew I wanted to work in the entertainment specific field regarding like celebrities. I always loved pop culture. I loved entertainment. It was a passion of mine. Like I used to read, I still do, but, People Magazine and Us Weekly. And I just like found myself always engulfed in those publications. So when I was at the Rachael Ray Show, a job became available where I could have been an assistant to the talent booker and sort of helped, book talent and celebrities for the Rachael Ray Show. But I was doing like a really good job at what I was doing, which was sort of booking your more everyday person to come on the show. So they weren't ready to take that chance and to have me move on to the talent team because they wanted me sort of still stay in the team I was on. And it was discouraging just because I felt like I'd proven myself and worked really hard. And I really wanted to make that shift and sort of work more on the celebrity, talent side of booking. So that didn't happen. And instead of, having my dream sort of die there, I knew I always wanted to sort of be in that world. So when I got the PopSugar job, I was really able to, integrate, the talent and the celebrity booking and that sort of thing. And then for NBC, now that I've been there, that's all that I do. So I just kind of always had a goal in mind and I wasn't going to stop, even if someone said no, or if a door was kind of closed on me. I knew that with enough perseverance and, just, effort on my end and hard work, I knew I would ultimately end up in sort of the genre of booking that I wanted to end up in. So my advice would be just to never give up and, keep going after your dreams. If it's what you want to do, like don't let anything or anybody stop you, because when one door closes, another door opens.
Absolutely. That's such good advice, because so many times we run into these situations or obstacles and it's maybe a not right now, but it doesn't mean not ever.
Exactly. 100%. Don't ever give up, ever.
So the next question that I have for you is, what is something that you wish that you would have learned at a younger age?
I would say what I wish I learned at a younger age was that you're going to have to, I think like I knew about hard work. Like my mom worked full time, my dad worked full time, but they made it look so easy. And I think, being prepared that there is going to be a lot of long days, a lot of long hours. Your paycheck's probably not going to be as high as you'd want it to go, just, as you want it to be just starting out. So being okay with, putting in the work and knowing that eventually it is going to pay off. I would say, you do have to sacrifice. When I was in high school, I felt like my social life was very important, like playing sports was very important. Obviously school was very important too, but it sort of shifts as you become an adult and you sort of, the social aspect sort of drops down, and then, the adult life takes over, and you definitely do have to, sort of focus your attention on your job and, just building a good rapport with your coworkers, because ultimately, what I always say about my industry is our industry is very small. Even though it's large in many ways, everybody knows everybody. So, your reputation hangs on the last job that you had, and, believe that people will reach out to like previous employers that you worked with. And, you don't even know that some people know each other, but you had no idea. So I would just say, just kind of that shift does have to happen. And it can be, sort of, it's a hard transition, because I think, as a young person, you're very much into the social life of things and sports and all those great things that I did as well. But life just gets a little bit more serious. And when you're trying to build a successful career, you really have to put the time and the work into it.
That is great advice, because that's something you don't think about in high school. You always hear about hard work, but and building your reputation, that is everything when you go into your next job.
Totally.
Opening those doors.
Yes, yes.
So my last question for you, and then we're going to open it up to questions from students, is what is some actionable advice that students can do right now while they're still in high school to help prepare them for their future?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, you're still young. So I think, there's sort of this, maybe this pressure sometimes that you have to figure out like what you want to do at a very young age. And maybe there are kids listening right now that are in high school that know they want to be doctors or know they want to work in the social service field. But I think there's probably a lot of high school students that don't know what they want to do. And I think that's actually really more than okay. And to not put that kind of pressure on yourself. I think when you go off to college, a lot will be discovered for yourself, and you'll learn a lot, and you'll take different kinds of classes and different subjects. And I think you'll really start to understand more of what you want to do. But my first thing would be to say, like, don't put too much pressure on yourself, because you still have some time before you have to enter the real world, and don't try to rush through high school and college, because trust me, you'll wake up at 35 like me and be like, wait, where did the last 15, 20 years go? And it's crazy. So I would say first and foremost, don't put pressure on yourself. Just, enjoy discovering new things and thinking about what do you like to do? Like, what are your hobbies? What are your passions? Like, what gets you excited? And that can sort of maybe help guide you in the direction of where you want your career path to go. But I would say, if you know exactly what you want to do, like start, reaching out to people on LinkedIn and having, conversations with people just to learn about their career path. Like, I have people reach out to me all the time who want to learn about how to break into my industry, and I'm happy to have those conversations. So don't be bashful. Feel free to be assertive and, reach out to people. If you have people that you're really inspired by, like, DM them on Instagram or, reach out to them, I don't know, on their personal websites. There's so many ways now to get in touch with people. And I think Google is just an amazing, it's an amazing engine, because you can literally Google whatever you want and you can probably find a lot of information. But yeah, I would say don't put too much pressure on yourself, because you'll eventually figure it out. And, you could also go into college thinking you want to do one thing, and then you get there and your whole entire career trajectory changes. And I think that happens all the time. And that's more than okay too.
Absolutely. And that probably happens way more often than it doesn't. I mean, it's totally okay to change your mind. Even if you're 10 years into a career, it's never too late to change careers. So.
Absolutely. People change careers at like 40 years old, 50 years old. So it happens every day.
Absolutely. So the first question that we have from students is, I love this. What is your favorite moment in your career?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I've had a bunch. I would say meeting Meghan Markle from Suits a couple of times, obviously was pretty epic, just because now she was a princess, she's or the Duchess, Duchess. But yeah, that was pretty amazing meeting her. We had her on PopSugar, and also the show I work on NBC called Talk Stoop, and it was really fun to have the chance to get to meet her before she became the Duchess. So that was pretty memorable. I would say I had booked Sting, and we did a shoot at the top of 30 Rock at Rockefeller Center in New York. And it was a really windy day. We were on the rooftop of the building. And as we were heading back inside after his interview was completed, I was shivering because it was so cold and windy. And he put his arm around me and warmed me up as I was walking back inside. And in that moment, I was like, okay, I'm on top of 30 Rock in the middle of New York City, and Sting is trying to help me stay warm. And I in that moment, I'm like, my life is so cool. And, I was just taken aback by that. So that was pretty awesome. So those are probably my top two like big moments. I mean, I booked Jennifer Lopez when I first started at NBC, maybe 4 months in. I didn't think I was going to get her, and it all the puzzle pieces worked out and I was able to get her. And that was a pretty big moment in my career too. It gave me a lot of confidence because I was just starting out at NBC. And you want to prove yourself at your new job. So that was a pretty cool moment in my career too.
Yeah, that's a perfect lead into the next question. Do you get to meet all of the celebrities that you book?
Yes. So that's very fun part of my job. I've met hundreds upon hundreds of people over the years, and it doesn't really ever get old. I would say I try to, keep myself very composed and be very professional because, they get a lot of people approach them and wanting autographs and things like that. And when they come to, my show that I'm booking for, I want to make sure that they feel safe and like they have privacy. And so I treat them like anybody else. That's definitely a big part of my process. And when I book people is I want them to feel like they're your everyday person. But yes, I've met everyone I've booked. It's really important for me to be very hands-on in the booking process, from, reaching out to the publicist, booking them on our show, and then having them come do the interview and walking them out, like from start to finish. I want them to have a good experience. So I have met them all. They're all really lovely. I have to say, I haven't had really any bad experiences. So I've been very fortunate as far as that's concerned.
Very cool. It sounds so amazing. So.
It's fun. It's a fun job.
So the last question that we have for you today is, what would you say is the most important skill or characteristic that you need for your job?
I would say the most important skill, I'd say there's two, particularly for my job. Number one, like I mentioned previously, is being very persistent and not giving up. I think you have these pie in the sky, dream guests of who you want to have on your shows. And, that little voice inside your head sometimes says to you, like, you're never going to get them, or they're never going to come on. And it sometimes could stop people from even reaching out to see if they'd want to come on. And I never let that voice win over. Even if I know it's like probably not going to happen, I'll still reach out, because I always say to myself, the worst that someone can say to me is no. And, you get really good at rejection in my field because you get no's every single day, all the time. And you just learn to not take it personally. But I'm always reaching out. I'm always following up. I want to get an answer, whether it's a no. I just want to be able to have that communication, because you never know, like down the road, they may remember you and say, oh, like it didn't work at that time, but I want to circle back to her and I want to have this person come on this time. So I would say being persistent is very key. And I would also say, just like, not giving up and just staying the course, and, never letting that voice like win over, because it can get discouraging sometimes when like you see somebody on a different show and you're like, wait, how did they get that person on their show, but they didn't come on my show? And eventually it all like comes around. So a lot of the people that I wanted, that I thought were never going to happen, a lot of them did end up coming on the different shows that I booked for. So just never giving up and, staying the course, and eventually, it'll all work out.
I love so much that you said the worst they can do is say no. I mean, and is that really even that bad anyways?
Exactly. They say no 1,000 times over. So I'm sure I'm in good company anyways.
So thank you for being with us today. Is there anything that you would like to leave with our students before we go?
I would just say, don't put too much pressure on yourself. I'm sure you guys are all doing amazing and you're very successful, I'm sure, and smart and talented. And everything will work out exactly as it's supposed to. If you put in the hard work and you stay the course, your dream job is out there as well. And I would say too, you may not get your dream job like right out of college. There's a high probability that that's not going to happen. But just know that eventually you will get there. And you may have to kind of take a little, side roads and side turns, but eventually you will get on the path that you're supposed to get on. So don't fret and, just enjoy this time in your life.
Perfect advice. Thank you for sharing your time. Thank you so much to everyone that tunes in. Be sure and check back every week. We have a new industry professional every single Thursday.
Thank you.